Hi, this is Will, and welcome to session 3. This webinar is all about increasing your influence. It's really about motivating people that you have no control over. So, how do you win them over? And I'm going to tell you about the science of language and what we've learned about language to do that. I want to begin by really creating, I think, a really optimistic way of looking at high performance. So for 7 years, I led the advisory board of the Human Performance Institute down in Orlando, Florida. That's a picture of it. Beautiful facility, and both athletes and business people went there to really learn how the brain and the body work together to optimize performance. And the founder of the Human Performance Institute, Jim Loehr, wrote a book called The Powerful Engagement, along with Tony Schwartz. And what they really emphasize is that to be great, to be extraordinary, really doesn't demand that you're great and extraordinary in every moment of what you're doing. It's that those most challenging moments, the moments that really matter, if you have the ability to be at your best in those moments, then you're going to accomplish amazing things. So that takes a little bit of pressure off us. So I'm going to give you one of the things that we've learned through brain science about language, about how you can do things in moments that matter with people that you have no direct control over. So first, let me just take you on a quick tour of the brain. Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for really identifying this and scientifically proving how it works. So we get a stimulus, it comes into our brain, and it goes to what he calls the fast brain first. The fast brain has got all these models, and this is where our biases and impulses react. And this is where we go to a fight or flight response. So it's just our immediate reaction to any stimulus. And so I want you to think about an executive or a decision maker who's satisfied with the status quo or confused about what to do next. So you present an idea to them, and they go from their fast brain right to their judgment center that is reactive. In the reactive judgment center, there is resistance or no change. And often what happens is the justification for not changing or being open-minded is caused by blame and then a feeling of helplessness, like this is out of my control. So you see this in teenagers when they react. It's called the blame and withdraw syndrome. So it's all your fault, and now I'm going to go up and hide my room or wherever I hide. So that's a really common response to the fast brain. Now, if we're going to be effective with other people, we have to get to their smart brain. And this is the brain that's connected to our hippocampus, which is where our long-term memory and our judgment is really located. And this is where we can open minds. And so this is the voice of wisdom inside our brains. And if we can trigger that, we trigger the proactive part of the person who's listening, and this is the part where there's reason and values, and they will begin to help solve problems and help you accomplish your goals. So I want you to think about it's like we're trying to sneak by the fast brain to get to the smart brain. How can we bypass that? Well, we know from actual scientists have come up with routines of language that allow us to do that. And so I'm going to give you three, and these are very powerful. The first one is for someone who is trying to get people to listen to them and they don't have a lot of power in the organization. So it could be peers and colleagues, or it could even be people outside their department or so on, anything like that. And so the key is to align yourself with people in authority. If you have no authority, align your proposition with people in authority. So in this case, it says our leaders have repeatedly said our strategic priorities require that, and fill in what they say. Therefore, we must pay attention to something or reconsider. So we must and do your goal. I'll show you. I have examples. And just remember, whenever using the word must, you have to use the word I, because if you ever say you must, you're going to get resistance. But we must doesn't trigger that fast brain. So let's just look. These are real life examples. So I was recently working with an organization where the CEO was really talking about winning a war for talent, and he'd come to realize that he could never recruit enough smart people, and that he wanted to get more engagement, more creativity, more involvement from the talent he had. And so as this was being socialized by the people I was talking to, they began to say things like this. Our CEO has repeatedly said our strategic priorities require that we must win the war for talent. Therefore, we must do all we can to empower each other, so we must transform the culture, which was their goal. You see how it works? Let's try one more. So this is an organization where the CEO said, we've got to just become more agile and innovative. I'm really afraid of our competition. So again, you're going to align yourself with your senior leaders and their strategy. So in this case, what I taught our team that I was working with, our CEO has repeatedly said our strategic priorities require that we must be more agile and innovative. Therefore, we must have cross-functional collaboration. So we must train our people in collaborative skills. Pretty simple. Rather than just starting off and saying, hey, we're going to do these skill training and collaboration, blah, 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 you've created a context where people, even if they're busy, they need to be paying attention because not just you saying it, in this case, the CEO is saying it. So that's aligning yourself with senior leaders. So that's number one. Okay, number two, which is what I call think like a Jedi, to open minds. And now this is extremely powerful when you're trying to convert people to a new way of thinking. And they're really stuck in the status quo. And basically, the fundamental idea is you're not stupid because I used to think what you think. So I understand why you think that. But as new facts have emerged, it's become clear we must now consider what the downsides are of not changing. So when I started, I thought, fill in the blank, what you thought. But as new facts have emerged, it's become clear we must now consider, all right, I'll give you a real life example. I was recently working with a company, and the CEO was really strongly felt that bias was not a problem affecting the employees, especially the women in the organization, that there was no bias against women. So, and he assured me of that, and they had pretty high engagement scores. So I did some focus groups with this company and actually created a survey, and we found out that that wasn't true, that bias was really discouraging women from participating in meetings and speaking out and so on and so forth. So when I went back to talk to the CEO and their leadership team, I said, when we started, I didn't think bias was a problem. In other words, I thought what you thought, affecting your team's performance. But as new facts have emerged, it's become clear we must now consider the performance cost of undervaluing talent. So that's what we did, and we launched a whole initiative around it. So thinking like Jedis, that's very powerful. Now, by the way, in your download, you can print out these forms, and what I want you to do as we move forward is try using them on things that matter to you, that you're trying, and actually use that language. So print out the forms, use the language, practice it, and see what happens. Now, I want to give you the third one, because I promised you three. This is an all-purpose one. I call it the smartest question you can ask, because it really opens minds. This really bypasses that fast brain to get to the smart brain. And the question, I learned this from a CEO, by the way. He was challenging his team to do something very difficult, thought to be impossible. And he said, what would have to be true for you to be able to get, in this case, this project done in 30 days, which everybody thought was impossible. But when he asked that question that way, what would have to be true in order for you to do that? What they did is they ran out and got a couple of subcontractors. They cobbled together actually a network of computers, and they did something remarkable that I'd never really seen in a big company. So I started to use this and coach people to use it too. So you could say to your boss, what would have to be true for me to get promoted? Now, immediately what that's going to trigger is a criterion that you can follow, or a set of criteria that you can follow to get promoted. Or if you're in a sales situation, what would have to be true for me to win your business? Now, right away when you say that, the person's buying motives are going to be revealed, because it could be price, quality, reliability, trust, whatever it is. But you're going to know what they're doubting or what's causing the hesitation. And like the CEO, what would have to be true for this project to be finished on time? or for a teenager, what would have to be true for you to clean your room before you leave the house again? It might require sanctions, whatever it is. But this is an interesting sentence because nobody talks this way. And that's why you should talk this way. Not all the time, but it'd be fine if you got famous for saying this statement because it really creates clarity in the other person and it bypasses their resistance point in their fast brain and gives you a lot of influence. So I've given you these three tools of influence. Aligning with the people in power. So align your goal with the people in power by talking SWOT. Number two, talk like a Jedi, think like a Jedi. And what that simply means is, I used to think what you think. And then finally, the smartest question you can ask is, what would have to be true? So these are easy questions to use. You can use them tonight. You can use them with friends. You can use them with colleagues. And you can use them with people you're having some problems with. So the main thing is I want you to try these tools out to see if it can get to other people's smart brains so they want to help solve the problems that you're interested in. Thanks for spending the time with me today, and we'll see you next week.